Yeah. Just picking up where I left off yesterday, or why I would never do business with 50 Cent. This is part two right here. And yesterday I did a little podcast on it. And I went through a lot of the reasons of why not. And I also did a barbershop talk. And the guys, we was in there amongst other topics. One of the topics was, would you do business with 50 Cent? And everybody was taken aback by the question. A lot of people, once I laid out all the information I had, some of the stuff, it wasn't on the forefront of people's mind. But once I laid it out, a lot of people was like, man, you right. You right. It does seem like it may be a bad business decision to do business with 50 Cent. But it was one guy in there, and all he could think about was the money. Like, that's all he could think about was, the money, man. How can you turn your nose up to that type of money? $5 million, man. Y'all talking crazy, $5 million. And I'm like, was he looking out? People not really looking at the situation for what it is. The $5 million that Little Meech received, that's Big Meech's son, the actor that was in the BMF series. When you check it out on Stars, you'll see who he is. Um, was he looking out for that man? You know, that was over a 3 year period, and it roughly comes to probably 125,000 an episode or something like that. I think it was 3 seasons, and it was like, you know, was he really looking out, or was he paying this man for a service he provided? And they're all there, man. He sent him to school. 50 Cent looked out for him. Ain't nobody else looked out for him. He sent him to school. Uh, I'm 47 years old right now, and I've had several jobs in the workforce. And a majority of them want you to be trained in whatever it is you're doing for them. So they give you on-job training. Some of them send you to schools. Some of them have people come in and, some of us online. But the bottom line is they want you to be better at it, at what you're doing. They want you to be better at whatever you do for them, because that will make the service you provide even better. Like me, I deliver. So when I first started this job, it was a training period. Like, they just don't throw you out there and say work. It's a training period. And within that training period, somebody gonna help you, and they gotta spend money on you in order for you to do your job efficiently and be productive for the company. Is that them looking out for you, or is that just the policy of doing good business? See, and I think people will get the two confused, because that's like if you work at 7-Eleven and you get trained on the cash register, is somebody looking out for you? Or is they just seeing to it that you could do a good job and you could be proficient at what it is you do in order to make the company money? So that's why I say you gotta kind of separate it and break it down, because this was one of the topics I brought up at the barbershop. Is like, I could see if you and 50 was business partners and y'all was splitting everything down the middle, then of course y'all towing the same line. But his problems aren't necessarily yours. Such as, if I'm working for a corporation, their problems aren't necessarily mine. Their problems might affect me in some shape, form, or fashion, but their problems aren't mine. It's something that I might have to keep in my peripheral, but it shouldn't be something that I have to deal with, because you have a major stake in this. I'm just a fractional percentage maker of whatever comes, and usually it's paid like as soon as you do your job, you getting paid. Like, if you work for a week, you get paid for a week. It's no true investment in it. Now, you could do extras and try to further yourself and, be an asset to the company, but at the same time, you're not obligated to take on any conflict or any situation that that corporation, that company, that brand, that business has, that's something that they have to deal with. And a lot of people they can't separate that. And what 50 Cent like to do is he had mixed the business in with the streets, as if y'all was running together and y'all was friends together, and this is some sort of, scenario to where it's life threatening, and if you do business with him, that mean it's gonna happen. Nah, business is business. And I think that's what makes him a bad business person, because he don't know how to separate the two unless it's involving him. And now if it's involving him, he know how to say, oh man, it's business. But if it's you, then he gonna mix the business in and make the whole situation confusing. So it's like, is that is that productive? Is that gonna benefit you, or is that gonna benefit him? And as you can see, everything he does is self-centered. It's self-centered. And I just want to go even further. Like, look at his relationship with his son. Like, forget the business of it. Look at the relationships that this man has. He has a son that look just like him out here floating around. And, the son might have said some things. The baby mother may have said some things, or they might be on the opposite ends of whatever scenario it is. But at the end of the day, that's your son. This ain't no movie. This ain't no book. This is your son. So whatever deficiencies he has in life as his father, that falls right on your shoulders. It's something that you didn't do. It's something that you're not fulfilling. It's your son. That's your product. That's your ultimate product. Besides your music, your legacy is going to be with your seed. And if somebody feel like they can detach themselves from their own flesh and blood, what chances do you have with being successful when it comes to business with them? If this person can separate himself from his own seed, his own son, somebody that look just like him with no emotion, no compassion, no connection, how do you feel as if you're going to get some sort of better feedback from him than he's showing you the ultimate signs of him not having the compassion or the capacity to deal with others? That's his son. Now imagine your son, imagine your daughter. Like, a lot of people will go that extra mile because, like, that's not your friend. That's your son. That's your responsibility. So, I just wanted to let some of this stuff sink in before you make your conclusion. Before you come to your conclusion, let some of this information I'm dropping on you sink in, because I'm hitting you with some heavy jewels now, something for you to run with. Now, we're going to look at the situation with him and Rick Ross. Rose. Rose is a prominent rapper out of Miami, Florida, probably responsible for a lot of the hits. I think he used to write for a lot of the Miami scene back then. And maybe, I think, Trick Daddy and Trina, some of them songs, he might be responsible. If you listen to the music, you could probably hear his influence. But, the beef that started between 50 Cent and Rick Ross was over Fat Joe. And I think the beef that Fat Joe and 50 Cent had was over Ja Rule. They had a song, Ja Rule had a song, New York, New York, I got 100 on the 100 clip, I'm coming from New York. I don't know if y'all remember that song, but it was a Ja Rule song, and it had, Fat Joe in it. I want to say Jada Kiss in it, and 50 Cent was up in arms. He felt like if you work with Ja Rule, you his enemy. So he going back and forth with Fat Joe. And somehow, DJ Khaled and Rick Ross get caught up in the mix of that. And, Rick Ross I don't think him and 50 Cent had any sort of dealings or any beef or any problems. But somehow, Rick Ross get dragged in the middle of it. They going back and forth. They dissing each other on track. And I think the icing on the cake is when 50 Cent got Rick Ross' baby mama to come up to New York to do some sort of photo shoot. She trying to, further her career as a model. I think she brought her son, which was Rick Ross's son. That's his junior, I think. She took him up there with her, and I think Mayweather and P Diddy. I seen the videos myself. First, I seen pictures of her in the magazine. I think 50 Cent was in between her legs with a camera taking pictures, and she was half naked, busting it down. When I say bust it down, I'm not insinuating that they were doing anything. When I say bust it down, that means she was posing for the camera. So she was out there busting it down, and 50 Cent was taking some of the pictures. I'm quite sure they had a professional photographer out there. And then she was doing interviews disparaging Rick Ross, saying, he's a deadbeat father and he not taking care of his responsibilities, this and that, this and that, this and that. And that seemed like the ultimate petty blow to where, some people, man, they ain't got no limits of what they'll do, but they gonna sit here and tell you what you supposed to do and how you supposed to perform, and, codes and rules and guidelines that you supposed to go through, but they ain't got none. And you got to watch out for people like that. Some people will tell you how to live your life, but they live their life how they see fit, and it's just what real ones do. And nah, man, you can't just allow somebody to speak and take precedence over what you seeing. And that's what I'm trying to get y'all to look at the evidence of what he's doing. Look at all that. Don't be thrown off by we fans of 50 Cent, because like I said, I'm a fan of 50 Cent. I'm gonna get into that. And I think a lot of the stuff, like, I'm gonna reel it back a little bit. Because, like I said, him and Rick Ross didn't really even have a beef. Their beef was between Fat Joe and 50 Cent. And then somehow, being that 50 Cent was going at Fat Joe, Cali and Rick Ross got caught up in it because they was doing music together. I think Fat Joe had moved down to Miami at the time, and they were associates of his, and somehow they got caught up in the mix of that. Now, we're going to fast forward to where the person that the beef was initially over was Fat Joe. Ja Rule to Fat Joe to Rick Ross. Now, Fat Joe and 50 Cent are friends. They squashed the beef. So it's like, you still beefing with somebody that the beef started with somebody else, and it's like, it don't even make sense. To me, it don't even make sense. It's like, man, why are you beefing with me for standing next to somebody when your problem was with this person? Go handle your beef, man. Stop trying to make me a part of what you got going on. Like, it was a situation the other day, sometimes I go to this podcast, Get to the Money. I haven't been in there in a while. And it was a guy, he was going back and forth with somebody who owed him money. And he was making innuendos and subtle threats. It's like, don't stand beside him. And to me, it kind of flustered me. I wasn't upset or angry, but I was bothered because, what do you mean, don't stand? If you got a problem with somebody, man, deal with that problem. Don't get to talk about if you stand next to them, that's your... Nah, man, deal with your problem. Because everybody has the same tools. Everybody got 2 hands, 2 feet. Everybody got a tendency to go left sometimes. So it's like, why would you add me into your situation with somebody when I don't know what's going on? Only you and that person know. And that's something you and that person got to settle. Don't make me a part of that. And I felt like, man, first of all, I don't know you. I don't know that person. And, I ain't trying to be feeling threatened. I ain't trying to be walking on eggshells out here. Don't have me a part of that, man. You go deal with it. You want me to put y'all face to face? Because my brother used to do that all the time. People be whining to him, talk about what they gonna do. He just put them right there together. And 9 times out of 10, they don't do nothing to say nothing to each other. They just part ways and go their separate ways. So it's like, man, you trying to turn me to this person's enemy because you scared to do something to him yourself. So it's like, you want me to carry out your anger. You want to force your feelings to me and have me crashing out for you. That's what people want you to do sometime. And you like, is that somebody you want to do business with? I'm sinking. I'm getting to my point here. Is that somebody you want to do business with that'll have you crashing out for them when they won't crash out for themselves? Think about it. Think about it now. And I just wanted to drop that. And everybody know that 50 Cent Curtis Jackson, he always spouts the 48 Laws of Power. I've read that book a couple times when I was incarcerated, and I thought it was a negative at best book. It had a lot of sayings in it, a lot of strategies in it that had to do with manipulation. You know, a lot of people live by that book. A lot of people practice that stuff. They practitioners of the 48 Laws of Power. But to me, when I read it, I was like, this isn't how you interact with others, because I knew better. I had more compassion in my heart. A lot of that stuff, it to me, it came from a warped place, from people who had warped senses of seeing things. And it was like, man, when I read it, I was like, there's no way you can have a healthy relationship with others if you utilize some of this stuff. It's like you creating enemies and you making everybody your enemy if you practicing that. So it's like, it's a difference between being smart and then being like undermining. And I think that book has a lot of things that undermine true relationships with others. And as you can see, look at him and his son. Look at him and his baby mother. Look at him and all the people he related with. I don't think 50 Cent has healthy relationships in his life. So if he can't maintain a healthy relationship, how can he maintain a healthy business partnership? Like, they go hand in hand. If you can't maintain relationships, that goes across all aspects of your life. So it's like, man, don't overlook that. Don't overlook stuff like that when you're dealing with people. And like, if we all know that 50 Cent reacts the way he does, if we all know he has terrible behavior, why do we make excuses for him? Why do we give him a pass and say, man, that's just how big, we all know how 50, why we giving him a pass? Why we making excuses? Why we overlooking that bad behavior? Is it because we fans of his? Because he rich? Is it because we see his TV shows and we watching his series and we've been listening to his music? What is it? What is it? What is it? I say that it may be because for the last 2+ decades, we've been allowing him to infiltrate our mind through his music, through him always having a presence online, through him always being on the TV. His voice has been in our head for over 2 decades. I don't know if y'all understand what that means. That's like conditioning. So if you used to seeing something, you used to hearing something, it sounds normal, because the behavior that he's exhibiting isn't normal. It ain't right. It ain't right. So it's like, for us to say, okay, we know it ain't right, but that's just how it is. That ain't right. So, when you consider all this stuff, when you take all this stuff into consideration, it allows you to step back and see. It allows you to get outside of that box of, I'm a fan of 50 Cent. Because, I've been listening to 50 Cent, man. Get Rich or Die Trying. Man, I thought that was one of the best. At the time, it was a CD, one of the best CDs to come out. Me and 50 Cent, we close in age. I think he might be a year or two older than me. And that, I thought that was the blueprint. Come out, I'm from the streets. I'm from Newport News, Virginia, downtown. I done been through some of the stuff that, a lot of others have been through, back and forth, doing what you weren't supposed to do. And it's like, man, I thought that was the blueprint. So I was like, man, I sided with 50 Cent because I was a fan of 50 Cent. You know, I heard the story about him getting shot. I know a lot of people have been shot. I done been shot. So it was like I identified with him. He talking slick. He always seemed like he was the underdog fighting against everybody. I identified with him. I seen some of myself in him, and I didn't see no wrong in anything he did. But then I had to step back. Somebody pulled my coattail, and I had to step back and make a good assessment, not just an assessment based on my connection or me being a fan of 50 Cent, but based on what I actually seen, what I actually knew about him. So I want y'all to take this and process it and let me know how y'all feel. Like I said, this was part 2. And this is the Let's Get To It show. And that's a tour with a U, because I always got you in mind. So if you don't mind, let me break it down for you, because you ain't never heard this before. Because at the end of the day, it's all for you. It's really all for you. And I'm King Sam the Powerful. The biggest hater this side of Texas. I talk reckless. So if you want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Matter of fact, y'all can't handle the truth. Court is adjourned, and I'm out of here. Let me see.